While I was installing SQL Server 2012 RTM cluster installation, I got an error. Let me show you what that error is. This is that error. It says updating permission setting for folder C cluster storage. Okay. Um, so what I had done for the folder that it is complaining cluster storage in the C drive, I have given everyone full control for that folder. Okay. And I said, okay, retry the installation process. But again, it failed after some time with some other error. It says don't have access to document and setting folder. So finally I got fed up with that, and what I have done, I have selected SQL Server 2012 slipstream version for installation, and it went through successfully. So what is SQL Server 2012 slipstream version? Basically, slipstream version means it's a combination of RTM plus whatever the service pack you combine. In this case, service pack 1. Okay, so basically RTM version has many bugs. It looks like basically I couldn't install SQL Server cluster at all. Okay, that is bad thing. Probably that maybe several reasons why Microsoft, if you go to microsoft.com and try to download the SQL Server 2012, this is the page you get. So you click that. Now you don't see SQL 2012 RTM. Earlier in 2008 and 2005, if you wanted to download SQL Server 2005 trial edition, they will let you download RTM version, and after that it's up to you which service pack you wanted to update. Okay, but now you don't have the option to download SQL Server 2012 trial edition RTM on their website. You have to download the slipstream version, only the slipstream version. You cannot download RTM. So that means there is some reason, probably there are more bugs or errors in the RTM that they don't want to try people using RTM. Okay, in our case we didn't even get the chance to install the SQL 2012 RTM cluster. Okay, so I spent nearly 4 or 5 hours to try to fix the issues, like giving the permissions to appropriate folder that it is complaining, but I couldn't succeed. Finally I got fed up with that, and basically I wanted to install service pack 1 after the RTM version. Basically I wanted to show you how to install the service pack 1 after the RTM installation, but it looks like I couldn't even install the RTM version. So I thought of wasting why waste unnecessary a lot of time on that. So let's install the slipstream version. That is the only option now. If you go to microsoft.com and download the 2012 software, so you will only get the option to download the slipstream version. Okay, the slipstream version means RTM plus service pack 1 combined. Okay, and after that you can update the cumulative updates. There are 3 to 4 cumulative updates after the service pack 1. So I'll show you how to update the cumulative updates later on. So when you download this, for example, now I have 64-bit version of a laptop, so I downloaded this version. When I download, it downloaded this version of software. Okay, if you look at this file name, it says 2012 service pack 1 full slipstream 64-bit version. Okay, this is the RTM version, and this is RTM plus service pack 1. Okay, when I select this file for installation, the installation went successfully without any issues. Okay, so that's what it is. Now we successfully installed SQL Server 2012 including the service pack 1. Okay, so let's go through the but I did not select the management studio because I do not know whether slipstream would install properly. I just installed the database engine for the clustering. So it installed. Now we will go ahead and install Management Studio to manage the SQL Server on this machine. All right, this is the cluster manager. Now if you take a look at the roles, you will see the SQL cluster resource group. This is the resource group we just installed. Okay, so the resource group, currently the node owner is node 1 and it is in running status. So this is the virtual SQL Server name that we have given. This is the client access point. This is how client will access this resource group. Okay, using this name or this name. This is the DNS entry for this IP address. Okay, it will make a DNS entry in the cluster, in the DNS. If you take a look at the now it will make an entry here. Okay, let's go to node 1 and see what else we have here. So for this resource group, this is the network name or virtual SQL Server name that you use in the application connection string, and this is the IP address, and these are the two shared storage that we assign to this resource group for the SQL cluster. And this is the engine, database engine, and this is the agent. Here you can say I wanted to fail over this resource group to some other node. You can do this. Okay, for example, if you are performing some maintenance task on this server, then you can fail over the resource group to some other node and do the maintenance task. Okay, and you can add the storage if you have any other disk. For example, now we have two available storage. We can select one of the storage for this resource group to access. For example, I have the data file, I have the log files here, and if I wanted to store backup files or the clustered index, non-clustered index, the index files, okay, like index file groups, I can allocate some other storage, some other disk to store backups or the index file groups. So you can see here what the drive is and how much storage it has. Okay, so this is the engine. Let's take a look at the properties of the network name. You can take offline and do some maintenance activities and bring it online, and if you take offline, then you cannot access this resource group. Okay, and again you can assign to another role or simulate a failure to see whether it works properly, or you can say show the dependency report. Okay, for example, network name depends on IP address. It will show you a report on the dependency diagram. So you can see here it depends on that. If you go to properties, here you will see this is the network name, the SQL cluster name. You can change the name here to something else. For example, this is production virtual SQL server. Okay, something like this. You can name whatever the name you prefer. Okay, so it will update the DNS records, and you can even update the IP address here. If you are changing from 116 to 117 or something like that, you can update. Okay, and it says dependencies, it depends on IP address. And policies are a little bit important, you have to understand. If resource fails, then how do you want to restart? Okay, so you may want to, if the resource fails for some reason, you may have to set the resource to automatically restart, how many number of times. That you will set values in the policies. Now let's go to advanced policies. Here you will see what are the possible owners. Currently this is the only possible owner, because SQL Server we installed on node 1, we didn't install on node 2 and node 3. Okay, that's why it is unchecked. If I select it as checked, I think it should give an error. Interesting. Okay, it looks like it accepted the node 2 as a possible node for this, but if you try to fail over this resource to node 2 just because it is possible owner, it will fail to bring the SQL Server services on node 2, because we didn't install SQL Server services on node 2. Okay, so let's do that. Why not? Let's fail over to node 2. So it says action move did not complete. Excellent reason. Let's go to cluster events to see if we have anything here. I don't know where is this information details. All right. Okay, here it is. The operation failed because either the specified cluster node is not the owner of the group, or node is not a possible owner of the group. Okay, so we know that it is going to fail. Okay, so let's change it back to uncheck. Okay, we have one more thing to discuss here. Preferred owners. Previously we have seen possible owners. Possible owners, which are all the nodes that can participate in this cluster. Okay, you might be having 3 nodes. In this case we have 3 nodes, but we wanted to have node 1 and node 2 to be part of this cluster. You can specify possible owners for this cluster is node 1 and node 2, and you wanted to use node 3 for some other reason. Let us say that that's the case. Okay, you can set it like that. You can say node 1, node 2 are possible owners, and here in the preferred owners, you can set node 1 as a preferred owner. For example, in this case, what it's going to do, if node 1 fails for some reason, node 1 goes down, the cluster will fail over to the node 2. Okay, and after some time node 1 will come back up. It will be online after a few minutes or few hours. Let us say you fix the problem and bring the server up. Then when you say preferred owner node 1, it will automatically fail over to the node 1. Okay, so because you set here as a node 1 as a preferred owner, so you got to be very careful. If you set preferred owner, then if the cluster is running on node 2, the moment node 1 comes back up on online, so again it fails over the resources back to node 1. Okay, so that you can see here, those options. So how you want to fail back to the preferred owner. Okay, you can say prevent the failback. Okay, so even though I set node 1 as a preferred owner, I don't want to automatically fail back to the preferred owner. I will decide to move the resource group back to the node 1. That's what it means. Or you can say allow a failback immediately or between so and so time. Okay, so generally you may not want to set the preferred owner, but if you, for example, if you have node 1, which is a high caliber server, uh, high processing server with a lot of resources, and node 2, node 3 are just so okay servers, then you might decide, okay, I wanted my SQL cluster to be on this server, because as a disaster recovery, as a disaster purposes, I wanted to have node 2. But if node 1 comes back up online, then I want services to fail back node 1 automatically. You might decide something like that. That is why preferred owner concept is there. Okay, failover. For example, if the node goes down, if cluster goes down for some reason, okay, either the server might go down or services might go down, for any reason, if there has to be failover, then cluster will try to move the services, the resource group, to another node. Okay, like that it will do the failover 2 times in this 6 hour. Okay, but if you have 4 failovers within 6 hours, then it will do the failover for 2 times, and third time it will not do, even though the active node fails, because you said here in 6 hour period I am allowing maximum 2 failovers automatically, and if there happens to be third time failover within 6 hours, then cluster won't fail over. Okay, in our case, demo purposes, we might be doing a failover a couple of times to show you how we can move the services from node 1 to node 2 like that. Okay, but it won't be failing over just because we have given, just because the default value is 2. Okay, so let's set it as a 20 for this resource group, so that we can try 20 times moving services from node 1 node 2 like that. Okay, let's go through the SQL Server properties. Here you can see the dependency report and simulate a failure, pretty much same as the resource group. It depends on cluster disk 4 and 5. So SQL Server service, it will wait for these 2 cluster resource to come back online before it brings this resource online. Okay, because SQL Server depends on data files, so the drive has to be online in order to serve the database. So it makes sense to have these 2 as dependency for SQL Server. Similarly, the network name has to be online. So without this, SQL Server service will not be online. Okay, so first you will see, when you fail over, you will see the disk 4 and disk 5 try to, these are the first groups, resources try to come online, and after that you will see this IP address come online, and after that network will come online, and then finally you will see SQL Server service will come online. Once SQL Server service will come online, the agent will come online, because agent depends on SQL Server. Okay, there is no agent without a SQL Server engine. Similarly, like for any other resource group or resource cluster resource, you have the policies, how you wanted to restart the resource group. Advanced policies, possible owners, which are, you can select the owners for this possible owners for this SQL cluster. Right now there is only one owner, because we installed SQL Server service on node 1. When we install SQL Server on node 2, then you will see node 2 here. Okay, so these are all the owners that are possible for this resource. Okay, but for this group, all 3 nodes are possible owners, but you cannot fail over to node 2, because this resource group cannot bring these services online on the owner. Okay, that is why when we try to fail over to node 2, it failed, but you can set node 2 as a possible owner. Okay, the moment we create the when we install the SQL Server, when we install the SQL Server cluster on node 2, then you will see the node 2 here, and the node 2 failover is possible on the resource group. Okay, and these two options, basic resource health check, it does a health check. um, for example, is alive, basic, and thorough health check. Okay, that's what these options are. In 2012 there are some changes. I think it uses a DLL which issues SP diagnostic stored procedure, which has a thorough health check. You have yeah, let's see here the failure condition level. There are five failure conditions, 1 to 5. uh, so right now it is in the middle, 3. So it depends on the failure condition level. The SP diagnostic returns appropriate value and determines the condition of the cluster. Okay, so that is what it is in the properties. This failure condition is important. If you wanted to set more value, you can read online to see what these values are. There are values from 1 to 5. Okay, 5 being the highest. Okay, um, so right now the default value is set as 3, and you have the virtual server name and etc etc here. Okay, so that's what the engine. Now let's take a look at agent. Agent, the only difference I see is the resource, the dependency resource is SQL Server. Okay, so it doesn't have anything more than that significantly. Okay, so basically that's what it is. So we installed the SQL cluster, but I did not install the management studio to log into the server, but we can try to use SQL CMD. Okay, so we can connect to the virtual SQL Server name, and we executed a query. Okay, so let's just okay, so right now we have master the system databases. Okay, so now we can successfully connect to the SQL Server. Now let's go ahead and install the management studio so that we can issue several other queries like server property and to see what node it is, what is the cluster name, etc etc. So for that, again we have to go to the installation screen. We could have installed the management studio along with database engine cluster. When we were installing SQL cluster, during that time we could have selected management studio. Okay, so it will install the management studio as a shareable component, but after that it looks like we cannot just install the shareable components using this feature. We have to go to this link, the new standalone installation, or add features to the existing installation. So now we are adding the future management studio feature to the existing installation. That's what we are trying to do now. So performing new installation, no. Add features to the existing installation. So right now It has database engine service, replication, and it has full text, and it has data quality. So these are the features for this instance. This instance is associated with the cluster, the VSQL cluster that we created. Okay, so now we are going to add the features, some more features for this existing instance. Now let's select the management studio. Client tools connectivity. Okay, I think this should be fair enough for now. The instance selected for installation is already installed and clustered on node 1. To continue, select the different instance to cluster. Interesting. Okay, so it already pre-selected these values. So we are trying to again install the database engine. That is why it is failing, I guess. Let's do this. Okay, so now we are able to install management studio on this server. I think it will take some time. I will pause the video here and resume after the installation.